Andre Johnson, what did you think of his Hall of Fame speech?
I think if you want to look at the role model for how speeches should go for the Hall of Fame, I thought it was perfect. I think he didn't spend a ton of time like listing every player he played with. He covered the totality of his career from high school through. I thought he did a hell of a job. I thought he hit all the main points, and I was moved by the way he did it.
Yeah, I thought he was really good. He crushed the over. What would you say, like 5.5 minutes?
No, I thought it'd be 12.
Oh, he did. He was way over.
Was he?
He was like 15 minutes.
I really thought he'd be shorter than. Yeah, I thought he'd be possibility of flirting with 10.
Yeah, I thought he was really good. Covered the fact I grew up in Miami, thankful for the city and where I grew up, and then his parent or his mom sitting in Miami high school and thanked his coaches that were there, and then talked about playing at Miami, and then eventually to the Texans, and how much appreciation he had for the fans, and gave the love to his family. Yeah, I thought he hit it out of the park. I thought it was a phenomenal job by Andre Johnson. And the question now becomes, we already know who the next Texans Hall of Famer is going to be. Like, it's J.J. Watt. Even if J.J. Watt comes back, he's still the next Texans Hall of Famer, I believe. So who are the next, in order, who are the next 3 Texans Hall of Famers?
See, that's tough, man. I think that did they have to play the majority of their career with the Texans?
Yeah, like if they were, I don't know if I don't think the Hall of Fame, the NFL Hall of Fame, does the bust where they like go in with the Texans helmet.
You
yeah, they don't do that. But like if we were making the determination that they were going to have a team helmet on their bust, it would be a Texan.
Okay. I honestly think it's going to be Tunsil and Tunsil because of the if for the entirety of his career,
no doubt.
He does it at that level. I think that whether you hear about him or not,
good call.
I think Tunsil will be in the mix to be the next guy up. And then after that, it's going to be really interesting to find out if you have to wait all the way to see if CJ's career turns into it.
Yeah.
Or Stingley or one of the young guys that you have, because I really couldn't pinpoint. I would say CJ. If I had to say anybody right now, I would say Tunsil and then CJ.
See, Tunsil might change my answer, actually. That was a really good one that I hadn't thought about. Maybe it's because of my anti-Tunsil bias. Just kidding. I like Laremy Tunsil.
Your Twitter beef.
I actually like Tunsil. That didn't affect me at all. The next one, though, to me is DeAndre Hopkins. I think Hopkins would be in before Tunsil, I think, because Hopkins is a little bit older. I think Hopkins is closer to retirement than Tunsil. And those are both players that didn't play all of their career with the Texans, but I think it would be their team that they would have on their bust.
Majority of their career.
I wouldn't even say majority of their career. I would say a majority of their production. Like DeAndre Hopkins,
true,
majority, it probably will be. I don't know like how much longer Hopkins is going to play. I think there's a chance that DeAndre Hopkins plays more years away from Houston than he plays in Houston.
But the totality for one team, like he'll have played more years for the Texans than because he played Arizona, then Tennessee. So he's not going to play the same amount of years that he would for the Texans, I don't think.
Probably not. But even if he did, I care more about the totality of production than the totality of years.
And the good years, too.
Like if Hopkins stayed in Arizona for the remainder of his career and played 2 more years in Arizona than in Houston, I still would have Houston as his bust because of totality of his production and the most of his production came whenever he would have been with the Texans. Like Laremy Tunsil could end up being like that too, where Laremy Tunsil plays more years away from Houston than in Houston. I doubt it. I think there's a better chance if Hopkins does that than Tunsil. But again, most of his production would come whenever he is a Houston Texan. So Hopkins, for me, would be second. I think Laremy Tunsil is a Hall of Famer, actually. So does Laremy Tunsil – I don't know if he's a first ballot guy, but does he eventually get in before one of these youngsters do? I would go yes. That actually changes my answer because I had Watt, Hopkins, Stroud. I had Stroud as the next guy. But I do think that Tunsil eventually gets in. So I'm going to steal your answer, add it to my answer, and go Watt. Then I'm going to go Hopkins. Then I'm going to go with Laremy Tunsil. Do you think Dwayne Brown's a Hall of Famer?
I don't.
I don't either.
I don't. I know that he was a big piece of the puzzle here. I know it didn't end well, but I know that, he was always one of those foundational guys that everybody looked at when they were looking at the best players on this team for a while. But being the best player on this team doesn't mean that you were worthy of being one of the best players in the history of the game in the Hall of Fame. And I don't think he carries the same kind of weight. I think I'm going to do what you did, though, too. I think that on the reverse side, I'm going to leave Tunsil in, and I think there's more than a legit chance that D-Hop gets in. So I would say then CJ's down the road, and then it would be D-Hop and then Tunsil.
Brian Cushing, question mark. I don't think Cushing's anywhere close to being a Hall of Famer. This is a good one. But I would argue that the majority of his production did not happen in
I know you're
Houston.
going to say.
Who?
Shane Leckler.
Yeah.
He's going to get in, I think.
I mean, he's arguably the greatest punter of all time since like Ray Gay
Guy.
or whatever. Ray Guy. He wasn't gay. He was a guy.
Yeah.
He's going to get in, but I would argue that I mean, I don't even think it's an arguable. Like, he didn't become a Texan until he was 37. He spent the first 12, 13 years of his career with the Raiders. All of his Pro Bowls and all of his AP first and second teams came with the Raiders. So Leckler will get in, but I would argue that Leckler is not a Texans bus guy. Yes, I don't know they don't do that in the Hall of Fame, but if we're trying to establish one team for that player, it'd be the Raiders, not the Texans.
No, totally agree. And he will get in. And it's just now that they're paying more attention than they've ever in the past. They just didn't want to consider punters. Ray Guy was the greatest punter in the history of the game, hands down. Now they're going to consider every aspect of a roster and what they mean. And you're seeing, Devin Hester as a kick returner getting in. You're seeing things like that happen where Leckler's going to get in.
Well, if we're counting specialists,
I know where you're
I would
going.
like John McClain
Weeks.
to lobby for John Weeks. John Weeks, the greatest deep snapper in the history of the NFL, the greatest deep snapper that the Texans have ever had. I'm pretty sure he was here with the expansion Texans. I think he's the only deep snapper the Houston Texans have ever had, tongue in cheek. Let's throw John Weeks out there. 5798. Did y'all just say J.J. Watt for the next Texan in the Hall of Fame? To me, it's
a no-brainer.
It's no brainer. Fairbairn? I think the Fairbairn's a long shot.
I don't think he's going to get in because you think about all the great kickers in the league. It's hard for them to get a kicker to get in the Hall of Fame.
I also think for a kicker to be in the Hall of Fame, you have to have postseason glory. Like, you can have all the stats, but I also think you need a game-winning field goal in the Super Bowl or great postseason success. Like Tucker
Justin
has
Tucker
a Super Bowl.
He is a lock.
He's won a Super Bowl too, right? He was on the
with Baltimore.
Flacco team.
Yes.
Whenever they won that Super Bowl in the Superdome. So I think Tucker's the greatest of all time. So for you to not be the greatest kicker of all time and not like top 3, top 5, even top 10, you have to have some postseason heroics, like a Vinatieri. And even Vinatieri's an all-time great without the postseason heroics.
Yep. No, you have to be on a different level, like to your point, notoriety-wise, big kick-wise, and then the consistency of everybody while you're still playing is pointing the finger and making extra attention gets on like a Justin Tucker going, dude does not miss. Dude is, and they start calling him the GOAT while he's still playing. Otherwise, there's a whole upper echelon level of kicker that does a great job, does their job really well, but at the end of the day, the name doesn't stand out enough for you to say he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. What about somebody texted Matt Schaub?
Nah, come on.
Yeah, he's not close to a Hall of Famer. He's not even close. Here's an interesting one. Gary Kubiak.
I don't think so. I don't think that from a contributor? I mean, you could say a head coach. Yeah, as a head coach, he won 2?
He won 1.
He won 1. That's not enough.
He might have won 1 as a coordinator, but he's only had 1 as the head coach whenever he was in Denver.
That's right. It was I just don't think so.
Yeah, I'm out on Kubiak as well. 82 lifetime wins, like that's not great. He's only had in his career 3. He's only had 5 winning seasons, and 2 of those winning seasons were 9-7. Like 82 wins, 1 Super Bowl is not going to get you in.
No. I mean, I don't even know if they do the contributor thing like that. But even as
he's not even a contributor.
I'm going to say, but from a head coaching perspective alone, that's not enough to boost your stock to say, well, there's a guy that's going to be in the Hall of Fame someday.
A couple people said Arian Foster. I don't think Foster's longevity was enough. At his best, he was really, really good, but he had like 2 or 3 years of that.
You talk about guys with shortened careers that still got in, like Terrell Davis, like if you want to go back a ways to some of the guys that, whether it's Barry Sanders, that was a no-brainer, and he cut his career short by just calling it quits, or Gale Sayers because of an injury, Jim Brown. You have to be really, really, really dominant with a shorter career. Terrell Davis had some big years for Denver, and he had more good years than Arian did.
Yeah, Arian, like Hall of really good. Arian's not a Hall of Famer. Just doesn't have the duration. Just doesn't have the longevity. John Weeks. They're not putting a deep snapper in, especially a deep snapper from the Texans. Although I'd love to have John Weeks in the Hall of Fame. He definitely should be in the Ring of Honor.
Like Jonathan Joseph had a really good professional career, but Jonathan Joseph isn't a Hall of Famer.
No,
and he had good years in Cincy. He had good years here. But he got recognized, but he didn't do enough.
If you eliminate the non-active players, who from the active players are you most confident will be a Hall of Famer first?
I think CJ's the first one.
Yeah, I I don't know if anybody else has the Hall of Fame career. What about Danielle Hunter? But that wouldn't be mostly as a Texan.
Stingley?
That wouldn't be mostly.
Or Will Anderson?
Stingley might have a Hall of Fame career. Anderson might have a Hall of Fame career, but I don't think they get in before Stroud.
Oh, no.
Because you would require one, they would have to retire earlier, which that's possible. Defensive ends play a long time. Corners retire earlier. Quarterbacks can play into their 40s if they're still really, really good. But are those guys first balloters? Whereas the quarterback has the advantage of being a quarterback.
They're already playing catch up based on the fact that even though Will Anderson was Defensive Rookie of the Year, the fact is, we go back to the notoriety card. There's no one that gets more credit and notoriety than the quarterback. And CJ had, as everybody nationally and locally will remind you, the greatest, or if not one of the greatest rookie seasons of all time at quarterback. They're all playing catch up, trying to catch up for one of the greatest seasons in quarterback history. It's CJ will be the next one.
Yeah, that's. There's no lock.
Right? No, it's not a lot. But I'm saying if those are the three into consideration, he's got a massive head start.
I think we covered it up. I think we covered all of them. I think Hopkins, Tunsil from Houston only. Like if Houston's the majority of their production, so that would eliminate Leckler, and then that gets you to the active roster. I don't think we missed anybody. I think Hopkins, Tunsil, Watt. Does Brown have a chance? I guess Brown has a chance. I don't see it happening though.
See, I think Trent Williams was more dominant, and Trent Williams playing the same position. I think Trent Williams is a guy,
but he's later. He's still playing. I mean, Dwayne Brown retired 2 years ago, last year
with the Jets.
But he's still going to be on the ballot way before Williams would be.
Yeah, I just don't think he gets in.
I don't either.